Do you know which Genesis album sold the most copies? Do you know? Can you guess? I actually got this wrong. I thought I knew what it was. In fact, I thought I knew what it was forever, and I was completely surprised by what actually is the best-selling Genesis record. We're going to rank the Genesis records and the compilations and the live albums from best-selling to least best-selling. You ready? Let's do this. Okay, coming in at number 20. Now, I should just let you know, we're not going to include Trespass. I think that sold about 6,000 copies. So it's kind of like anything under 10,000 copies, I think we have to leave off here. We're not going to do Trespass. We're not going to do the archive. We're not going to do any of those like tall box sets that they did, part of the archive thing. We're not going to do From Genesis to Revelation, which I believe was like 650 copies, but I'm sure there's been more sold now. But so those are the records we're leaving off. Also, we're not including the Last Domino box set. Number 20 is Nursery Crime. Came out in 1970 and sold 160,000 copies. I mean, that's still really good considering Trespass did 6,000 copies. Nursery Crime doing 160 is pretty cool. Now, I don't know if those numbers include like year to date. Like, I don't know if all the reissues are included in there. I'm not sure. Number 20. Number 19, one of my favorite records and a record I love for them to do on vinyl is Live Over Europe from 2007. That's coming in at number 19. Also sold 160,000 copies. Number 18 is Foxtrot. You know, the interesting thing about this list is it kind of goes chronological, but not entirely. Not entirely. When we get towards the end, it does get a little bit chronological, which kind of surprised me, but there are some interesting surprises in here. Number 18 is Foxtrot with 215,000 sales from 1972. Number 17 is The Way We Walk, The Longs. It sold 336,000 copies. What's interesting about The Way We Walk Longs is that it came out in 93 and the shorts came out in 92. And we'll see the shorts later on, as that sold a lot of copies. But the longs was a completely different package. Now, I've been actually looking for the longs on vinyl, and I can't find it. And I know some of you have it out there. I'm jealous, but it just goes to show you that it's a little bit easier to find, even though the 90s, they weren't doing vinyl as much as they were doing tapes and CDs, but it's a little bit easier to find the shorts, and the shorts are cheaper on Discog than the longs on vinyl. So that's number 17. Coming in at number 16 is the Platinum Collection. I actually don't have this, and I'd love to grab it. It's pretty good, although I don't love compilations that go chronological. Like you listen to all of Invisible Touch hits, and then you listen to, We Can't Dance hits and Invisible Touch, and so on. So is what it is. But this sold 400,000 copies. That's a huge number, and I'd like to get it. I mean, I was a big fan of the Turn It On Again thing, and I don't really know what this came out in 2004. I don't really know what they were capitalizing on when this came out. But it's cool. It's like a 4 CD set, I want to say, maybe 2. I can't remember. Coming in number 15, this will surprise some people because it's ranked as one of the greatest live albums of all time, and that is Seconds Out. I totally forgot to mention, but Genesis Live isn't in this mix. That's kind of surprising. I wasn't able to get a sales data for Genesis Live. I've looked. Maybe you can help me and find out. It entered into the top 10 on the UK charts, so there should be a number out there. It probably sold better than Trespass and maybe even Foxtrot and Nursery Crime. I'm not sure, but I can't find the sales data for Genesis Live. Sorry. Seconds Out is a great album, one of my favorites. And I'm actually surprised. It says it sold 450,000 copies. It's coming in at number 15. I'm kind of surprised it's this low, to be honest. I'll tell you why. Because I find it in record stores all the time. It's like one of the most common Genesis records I see, along with And Then There Were Three. And I feel like And Then There Were Three was in the vinyl era, not quite the tape era. And it's not a great album. And I think a lot of people would have bought it for Follow You, Follow Me. And then maybe that's why you see a lot of them in the discount bins and in used record shops, is because the passive casual Genesis fans who just bought the record for Follow You, Follow Me maybe got rid of it. So I see And Then There Were Three a lot, but I don't understand Seconds Out because I see that a lot. And I don't know why you get rid of that record. I want more copies of that record. Number 14 is Calling All Stations. That's going to hurt a lot of people that outsold Foxtrot and Nursery Crime and Seconds Out. But I like that record. 500,000 copies. It was in the 90s, so CDs were still selling like crazy. And I think there was probably a lot of curious Genesis fans who picked it up on release day. 500,000 copies, not bad. 1997, Calling All Stations, number 14. Number 13 is Three Sides Live. it outsold Seconds Out by 150,000 copies in 1982, selling 600,000 copies. I really don't like Three Sides Live. Although I actually like the artwork, but I don't love this record. We'll do a review on it sometime. Just because of the fourth side. I'm not a huge B-side fan. I'm also not a huge fan of like live albums that aren't complete shows, that are just kind of like not in the proper track listing. And to me, it just throws me a little bit. It's just a jagged listen, Three Sides Live. But anyway, we'll talk about that another day. I really want to get a copy of the British copy or the European copy that has the older songs on side 4. I don't know why they just didn't do that. Coming in number 12, selling 750,000 copies, was The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Good record. Have you heard of that record? Number 11 is Wind and Wuthering from 1976. So now we're doing a little bit of, and we know this, right? When we read the bio of Genesis, we're doing a bit of chronological order here because, when we read the Genesis bio and the story of them, we know that Selling England did well, The Lamb did well. I don't know if the Lamb didn't do as well as Selling England, but and then Peter Leaves and Trick of the Tail still does great. So anyway, number 11, Wind and Wuthering, selling 765,000 copies. Trick of the Tail is in number 10. So we're heading into the top 10 here. Trick of the Tail, also in 76, did 800,000 copies. Now it's kind of, man, I always find it surprising that these records were released in the same year. Now I know they're about 10 months apart, maybe even 11 months apart, but still surprising to me that any band, and both records are incredible. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Kid A and Amnesiac from Radiohead. If any Radiohead fans out there, they sound like they're from the same sessions, although these guys weren't. But it is a nice one. Is a little bit more aggressive and exciting, and the other one's a little bit more subdued and a wintry, autumnal record. But it's interesting that Wind sold just 40,000 records less than Trick of the Tail. Maybe because people were like, "Hey, I already bought a record from these guys this year." Coming in number 9, I'm actually surprised this is so high up, is Selling England by the Pound. From 1973, 840,000 copies. I wonder maybe if I Know What I Like earn them a little bit of sales. But I'm really surprised to see this album up so high, above The Lamb, and even above Trick of the Tail. Now, I think it's a better record than those records, to be honest, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's a super concise record. It's a beautiful record. So it's in my top 3, top 4, top 5, top 3, top 1 sometimes. Coming in number 8 from 1980 is Duke. Very surprised that this is so low. And I have a theory. I guess it was maybe misunderstanding, didn't pull it up enough. They were still not yet becoming massive. I'm just a little surprised though. 1.4 million copies. That's incredible. I don't have the charts in front of me right now, but you guys know what it is. But number 8 from 1980 is Duke. And I'm surprised because number 7 is And Then There Were Three. And that came out in 1978 and has sold 1.5 million copies, a little over 1.5. Now, my theory is what I just mentioned is Follow You, Follow Me. Remember, there was this time, it led all the way into the 90s and 2000s, where you'd have a hit song, and that hit song would sell copies of the record. The band has said that the women started showing up at the shows more frequently whenever they had a single like Follow You, Follow Me. It was a very concise, beautiful love song. So now you don't have to be a prog rock fan or art folk fan to listen to this like very heady, experimental band. You could just be a fan of the Beatles, a fan of pop music, a fan of the Monkees, a fan of the Bee Gees, and listen to Follow You, Follow Me and love it. And so now they would probably go to the shows as fans of Follow You, Follow Me and go, boy, this is a pretty dark and gloomy show. But I think that probably helped. And Then There Were Three sell more copies than Duke, even though Duke is by far a better record. I think And Then There Were Three was propped up by Follow You, Follow Me. I'd be very curious to know what that would do without a Follow You, Follow Me. Number 6, this is a record that's really special to me because I was a teenager and I bought this CD the month it came out. And it kind of, as a teenager, it kind of abandoned Phil Collins and Genesis, or as I was, afraid that maybe they weren't cool for a high schooler to listen to. I am cool. Number 6 is Turn It On Again, the hits from 1999. It sold 1.6 million copies. It was right at the end of the greatest hits era where all these big legacy artists were doing greatest hits albums. Now, I'm sure a lot of you don't like this record because it doesn't really have anything old on it aside from the 1999 version of Carpet Crawlers with Peter and Phil, as well as I Know What I Like. But aside from that, it doesn't go back really any further than other than Follow You, Follow Me. It doesn't, it's pretty much Duke onwards. So it's curious, though, that they didn't put Your Own Special Way on there, because I wonder if Your Own Special Way did better than like even maybe Misunderstanding. I'm kind of curious, or Turn It On Again. I'm not sure. Those are iconic hits, but I just wonder why. Even I Know What I Like, I'm sure Your Own Special Way did better than I Know What I Like. Your Own Special Way actually did better than I Know What I Like. Your Own Special Way went to number 7 on the UK charts, and it was their first US chart placement, and it went to number 26. Whereas I Know What I Like went to number 21 on the UK charts, but never appeared on the US charts. I fell in love with I Know What I Like on this package. Anyway, this package is really important to me. I actually bought a second copy of it just recently because I burned through my old one. And I still think there's room for them to do. I mean, for us Genesis fans, and especially Phil Collins fans who are fans of the pop era, it would make total sense for them to issue a single disc vinyl of like the 12 best Genesis short songs. I think that would make tons of sense. Hopefully the new publishing company does that. Coming in number 5 from 1992 is The Shorts. The Way We Walk Volume 1, The Shorts, sold 2.5 million copies. So this is the band at their height. It really is. And this would be their last mega selling record. But this kind of falls in line with like Serious Hits Live, where you have the best songs and you have them done live. This was probably released in the fourth quarter, which is usually when the Christmas and Thanksgiving shopping time is when records like this usually release. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably was fourth quarter. And then the longs would follow the following year. Number 4, this actually surprised me. I don't know why this kind of outsold the Shorts, but Abacab, 1981. With 2.7 million copies is coming in number 4. That surprised me because there wasn't like any big hits to drive the sales of that record. Maybe they were just becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And now let's go into number 3, double the sales from 2.7 million copies to 5.6 million copies. Genesis Self-Titled from 1983. Now this is when Phil is popular, right? So maybe that drove up the sales of Abacab as well, and Self-Titled. Is that Face Value had been released, and Hello, I Must Be Going had been released. And so Phil's star had already been starting to shine. So that could have helped drive the sales, and Mama as well. And That's All would have helped as well, for sure. So number 3 is Genesis. Now here's just what really surprised me. Honestly, I thought Invisible Touch was their number 1 album, but it wasn't. It's their number 2 album with 8.2 million copies sold. From 1986, Invisible Touch is their second best-selling record. That really surprised me. If I were to do this list, I would have said Invisible Touch number 1. I would have said maybe The Way We Walk Shorts number 2. I don't know. Anyway, I was just surprised. Number 1 is We Can't Dance, and I just find that surprising. And here's what's crazy: 15 million copies. We Can't Dance. 15 million copies. 1991. I was one of those copies on cassette. It was the 7th best-selling album of the year, whereas Invisible Touch was the 8th best-selling album of the year. I just thought Invisible Touch, a Grammy nomination for that music video, tons of music videos, tons of singles from that album. Invisible Touch went to number 1. It was right after No Jacket Required. I just kind of figured that Invisible Touch would have been a bigger album. But then, We Can't Dance had its own share of singles, right? We Can't Dance did really well on MTV, and Jesus He Knows Me, and No Son of Mine, of course. Hold on My Heart is a hit as well. And I think it was an opportune time, right? This was Phil's and Genesis' last reign at the top of the charts and selling big records. Because after this, the 90s weren't nice to Genesis and to Phil Collins with Dance in the Light and Calling All Stations and even Both Sides. But We Can't Dance, things were still going well. And we're only a year or so after But Seriously. And But Seriously was the best-selling album in the UK that year and did phenomenal and won Grammys. And so Phil is still riding that wave into We Can't Dance. And it was a good record. It's a good record. I'm not going to talk about it today. I've talked about it before. It's a little bloated. The title doesn't make sense when you look at the album cover, but we won't get into that. But it's the best-selling Genesis record. Let's go over the top 10. We Can't Dance, Invisible Touch, Self-Titled, Abacab, number 4. Number 5, The Way We Walk, Shorts. Number 6, Turn It On Again, the hits from 1999. Number 7, and then there were 3. Number 8, Duke. Number 9, Selling England. And the number 10 is Trick of the Tail. So how did you do? Did you guess right? I didn't fare so well. I really thought Invisible Touch was the best-selling record, but how did you do? Let me know. And here's my question for you. Which of these records, and you can say all of them, which of these records did you go out and buy the week it came out? Which of these records? For me, it was only We Can't Dance, maybe Invisible Touch, but I didn't have money at the time, so it wasn't me who bought it. But Turn It On Again, the hits, I actually bought the week it came out. But anyway, which of these records did you buy the week that they came out and contributed to their sales? Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.